Welcome to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and I could not be more excited for today's guest. Stephen Ritz is a teacher in the Bronx, New York, but he is unlike any teacher that you've probably ever met before. After accidentally starting a garden in his classroom, his life and the life of the children in the school and really the whole community has completely been transformed. Stephen and his students began learning about indoor gardening, and they started growing so much food that they were able to provide for the whole school, and not just the whole school, but like the students and the teachers. And soon took off, and Stephen and his students started creating gardens all over the Bronx and even supplied students with paying jobs. And what Stephen and his community are doing is not only supplying fresh fruit and vegetables where they currently aren't available, but also helping these children who are extremely low income or in group homes or foster homes, and really getting them to love being at school and increasing engagement. His class went from 40% attendance to 93% attendance. And it's really just incredible the impact that he's making, and people have noticed. He's done several TED Talks, and his work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, The Guardian, ABC, CNN, NBC, NPR, and him and his class were even invited to the White House in 2014. And as awesome as all of that is, by implementing the healthy eating that he's learned about and that he's teaching about growing his own food, he's lost over 100 pounds. So, Stephen, I really can't do you justice with the intro. You've done so much, but thank you so much for coming on here.
Well, thank you, Dr. Casey. It is just an honor to be here. The last Dr. Casey I knew was Dr. Casey Kasem. So I'm just thrilled to be talking to someone a little younger. But you did the whole show. We should say that's a wrap after an intro like that. OMG, it's tough to follow you.
No, I feel like I couldn't put enough in there, but thank you. I really appreciate your time, Stephen. It's really an honor to get to chat with you.
Well, no, it's just an honor to chat with people and to be able to inspire healthy living, to inspire healthy giving, to talk about how we pay it forward and kind of have my si se puede personality and spirit pervade the airways. So it's great to be positive, and I'm just grateful to be alive and thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
That's amazing, Stephen. So I guess, we'll just go ahead and jump in. If you just want to start, from the beginning and how you really began this journey and, how you decided to become a teacher and how this really fell into place with accidentally starting this garden in your classroom. I'll just kind of let you just take over.
OMG, how many hours do we have?
Oh, man.
So do I go back to the days of Jesus when, I was building the pyramids, which I always tell the kids, name any historical incident and Mr. Ritz was there. So I have to be careful about what I out tonight, lest the children hold me accountable.
Right.
I have been a teacher since the early 1980s in the South Bronx. I never expected to be a teacher, much less a farmer. Today, people think I'm a farmer, but I jokingly say that I am a people farmer. And I grow vegetables, but my vegetables grow students, schools, school performance, and resilient communities. And as you well said, 50,000 pounds of vegetables later, my favorite crop is organically grown citizens, graduates, members of the middle class, kids who are not going to jail and who are graduating college.
It's amazing.
Se puede, yeah. But it all started by mistake. One of the things that I talk about always, and I really try and highlight in my new book, remarkably called The Power of the Plant, is this thing called collisions, connections, and co-learnings. We live in a world of constant collisions. You bump into people, you bump into things, and you can connect and you can co-learn. These connections, these co-learnings result in a new pathos, logos, and ethos, if you will, that can really make epic happen. And that's what the world is really all about, making epic happen. So remarkably, and some 20 odd years into my career with no science experience and no gardening experience for sure, I happened to bump into a plant, a daffodil bulb, at the least likely moment, in the least likely time, I'm in the least likely place. And remarkably, the metaphor there is that a seed well planted can give you a crop of epic proportions. To get a little more granular, I'd been teaching across the Bronx, doing all kinds of project-based learning, if you will. I always began with the outcome in mind and working with some of the most difficult children and some of the most challenged children in certainly one of the most challenged communities that New York City had to offer. But, I believe that no child rises to low expectations, and I would much rather fail at a high bar than succeed at a low. And neither zip code nor skin color should determine outcomes in life. So I am absolutely committed to a wholly inclusive education for all. And I believe that there are only unique learners in this world. And children need to be connected, respected, and enabled to do things. And
it's not cookie cutter, and it's such a problem,
Well, I don't like to focus on problems. I like to focus on solutions.
Exactly.
If a plant, and I'm taking it back to a plant and the power of a plant, if a plant doesn't grow, we don't blame the plant. We look at the environment. So similarly, I think, that our children are certainly worthy of the same respect. So if our children aren't growing, our children aren't thriving, we don't need to blame them. We need to blame the environment in which we are trying to educate them and see how we can get that to a better place. Remarkably, I had been doing a great deal of that, having nothing to do with farming, and sadly and tragically had some very difficult times myself. We had some personal tragedies within my family. My wife and I lost some children. There was a young man who passed away in the school that I was working at. And after those crises and tragedies, which can really bury most, I decided that, number one, I just couldn't bear to go back to the school I was working in, to just walk through those doors and relive those memories every day, and moved closer in terms of my work to my physical home so I could spend that extra half hour in the morning at home and be home a little sooner, and just get a fresh start. And lo and behold, I wound up taking a job simply without doing any research at the closest physical school to my home, a walking distance to my home. And remarkably, it was the most dysfunctional, poorest performing high school in all of New York City. To give you some context, there were hundreds of felonies committed. There were 18 police officers assigned, 48 school safety officers assigned, 18 discipline. It had a 17% graduation rate and was actually slated to be closed. And I didn't even do my due diligence. I didn't even know it was slated to be closed. I just didn't care. I wanted a job close to home. And remarkably, I inherited a class of overage, undercredited children with a lot of unique needs and a lot of baggage, some of it being probation officers, some of it being other issues, but really big, strong, burly, tough, angry children for the most part, many with beards and tattoos and body piercings, who certainly looked as old as me, if not older, and were literally equipped to read Dr. Seuss books. It was just a real difficult situation. The system had been failing them for years. No one tells my children they're going to be both separate and unequal, but I can assure you this, no matter how much education my students have or don't have, they don't need a 4-year diploma to know what students get off at what train stop and what students stay on the train to other train stops. So, it's really for me about not only leveling scores, but leveling the field. Remarkably, one day I get called down to the principal's office through the PA system to come on down, and I'm told I have this big box in the office. And I get so excited. I am just jubilant. I think I have won a prize. There's a box, and I'm thinking, wow, someone sent me something great for these kids. I can't wait. Man, my problem is solved. Engagement is here. And I open up this box, and it's like crap. I'm like, what is this? These things, they look like stale little rotten onions. I'm like, literally WTF. I'm like, this just sucks. I close up the box. I walk down the hall, and I decide I'm just going to hide these things behind a radiator. And that's literally what I did. I took these box of onion-like things that I deemed as being nothing more than bad science experiment projectiles that were going to be weapons, and hid them from the students they were intended for, and put them behind a radiator with some access to some sun, but the radiator steamed and hissed heat all day. About 6 weeks later, in a kind of really spooky moment. There's a fight in class, and this girl who's bigger and stronger than me goes after a boy, and she's running across the room to get him, charging, and in slow motion, yet hyperspeed, I see my career flashing in front of me like this is going to be death. This is definitely a 911 moment, and both my students and I are going out of here in handcuffs. Lo and behold, the boy goes running to the radiator, and again, I see my career flashing before my eyes. Only for him to go digging under the radiator, and somehow the box behind the radiator breaks, and all these flowers come flying out. And he picks up these green stems with these big yellow flowers and starts waving at them, at this girl. And it's like, it diffuses everything, and everyone starts laughing and freaking out. And the boy's like waving flowers at this girl who's ready to kill him. And that's what we call in the South Bronx a teachable moment. And literally, from tragedy and fear came this moment of wonder, curiosity, and inspiration. And the boys wanted to give the flowers to the girls wanted to give the flowers to their mothers and teachers, and it became just this wondrous moment. And I kept thinking, where the hell did these flowers come from? It turned out they weren't onions, but rather bulbs, as in daffodil bulbs. And they were sent to me because people knew I had a penchant for working with children and engaging them on a community basis. And we were supposed to go plant them at It's My Parks Day at Poe Park, which was proximate to the school. We were invited to come down and do something to commemorate 9/11. Mm-hmm. But, the flowers go in the fall, they get frozen over the winter, and then they get forced up in the spring, so to speak, from heat and moisture. But remarkably, the radiator and the steam and the sun forced the bulbs into a premature forcing, if you will. And, the bulbs, instead of being planted in October, bloomed in October. And then we said, you know what, let's go read inside the box. Like, this is pretty cool. Maybe we should read the directions. Not a bad thing to do in school. Follow directions. Read. So we go into the box and we see we're invited to the park the following week. And I'm like, who wants to go? And a bunch of my kids did. And we went, and remarkably, 2 of the 11 won the raffle there. Someone got a free pair of sneakers, which in the Bronx is just like, hitting lotto. Yeah. Another kid got free concert tickets with a chauffeured limousine ride. He was able to take his hand. But most importantly, the children, the students really enjoyed themselves and were engaged and involved in planting this park. So much so that year, my students and I went on to plant 15 or 20,000 daffodils across New York City in commemoration of 9/11. We went on to win the Golden Daffodil Award, and my children, who were traditionally apart from success, became a part of it, so much so that my class of unique learners and special education students were perceived as the honors and gifted and talented program at a city council awards dinner, which was pretty—
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that was the start. And of course, right then and there, it was at the cusp of the green movement. Mayor Bloomberg was talking about stormwater mitigation and green roofs and environmental remediation. And, New Yorkers should be 5 minutes from parks and 1 million trees should go up. So it was the perfect time. And we started getting my students living wage jobs, which made me pretty cool on campus. And that was the start. And then I learned about food. But, that's a whole nother story. And I should come up for air and let you ask another question.
No, that's incredible. I mean, it's really cool to hear how everything falls in place like that, because who would have thought that you just happened to put those flowers behind the radiator and then it could change your entire future. It's just amazing when you think about it like that.
Well, that's nature. And
yeah.
That's the beauty. And, I think in some ways we've gotten so far away from nature that we really need to get back to it. And again, I'm a guy who grew up thinking the world would be better if it was all dark and indoors, like a basketball court or a steakhouse. And, here I am planting flowers across the Bronx and growing farms and growing green and, really having the time of my life. But the collateral health benefits, the resilient community benefits, the triple bottom line is really what I'm all about. And that children shouldn't have to leave their neighborhood to live, learn, and earn in a better one. And that, there is no man on the white horse. And hey, I'm not even going to get into politics and talk about who is or who isn't president. But I will tell you this, Superman is not coming to my neighborhood. We are the ones that we're waiting for. And my students and I are proving that we can grow ourselves into a whole new economy. We don't want to hand out. We're going to do it ourselves.
Exactly.
that's what this is all about, a sense of empowerment and self-determination.
That's amazing. And like, so how did it progress from there? I mean, you're growing all of these flowers, and then when did you guys decide that you wanted to switch and try to grow vegetables and fruit inside? Like, how did you guys have that transition?
Great question. When we learned about it, funny thing about school. So remarkably, much as I was doing this green outdoor stuff, and it was really a lot of ornamental landscape, a lot of landscaping, remediation, green walls and green roofs, we bumped into people in the community who really had issues and got involved with us and wanted us to plant gardens and suggested that we grow food. And, growing food is pretty cool because I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know where vegetables. I mean, 10 years ago, I couldn't tell you 10 kinds of fruits and vegetables. Now I grow 37 kinds of fruits and vegetables indoors all year long with my amazing tower garden technology.
Well, hey, Stephen, I think it's important for people to understand, too, especially in the community that you're in. Like, it's not I think we take it, I mean, I know we take for granted, like, I can go to a grocery store really close and be supplied with all kinds of organic fruits and vegetables, but a lot of communities like the one that you're in, you don't have that.
Yeah. What the hell is organic? That's
right.
A whole nother conversation.
So you guys don't have that. I mean, there's pretty much just convenience stores, right, just supplying all of the food. I mean, is that right?
That is, in a large way, you are 100% correct. It seems like bulletproof bodegas, gas stations, and pharmaceutical outlets are where students shop these days. And for many, it is easier to get liquor than it is to get lettuce.
That's crazy.
In the neighborhood. There's this joke that, this misnomer, and I almost think it's poverty pornography, if you will, which I'm trying to stamp out. And yet that's yet another topic that, we live in a food desert. No, I don't think it's a desert. I think it's a swamp. Everything in there is just a mess.
Right.
Manufactured edible synthetic substitute. There's a whole lot of
I
stuff.
love that.
It's just not worth eating.
Exactly.
They're empty calories. It's, we've turned children in communities of high need into marketing tools for companies and corporate entities. It's become ridiculous. So understanding that, without farmers, we'd all be naked and hungry. And thank God we're not live on camera to talk about that. But I mean, where food comes from is absolutely critical. Carrots don't come from the basement of Costco. And the nuggets that we eat should come, or once might have come, depending on where you get them from a living animal with 2 legs and a beak and, 2 eyes. And, and I ask the children, how many nuggets you think come from a chicken? They look at me and like, huh? How many burgers from a cow? It's not a cow, it's beef. They just get it. Where does milk come from? The basement.
It's crazy. There's such a disconnect. It's crazy.
Right. And I believe, quite frankly, that when you connect children with nature, you teach, in particular inner city children, when you connect them with nature, you teach them to nurture. And when children learn to nurture, we as a society collectively embrace our better nature. It's about empathy, compassion, sharing, human ecology, planetary ecology. And now more than ever, when my little ones, because I transitioned away from older students towards younger ones, when these little ones become involved with healthy eating and growing food and being water stewards and environmental stewards, we're creating the next generation of eco-warriors, of superheroes, of solutionaries, children who grow up doing right and don't need to unpack bad habits, but are instead building good habits on top of good habits on top of good habits.
Absolutely.
Realize this. It is easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men. And just like McDonald's figured it out with the Happy Meal, we're figuring it out with the Green Meal. I like to say we got 99 problems in the South Bronx, but growing healthy children and fresh vegetables is no longer one.
That's incredible. I love it. And I have a daughter who's a year and a half, and she's just so lucky because, she just gets to grow up in a whole different way, and she's going to get to have a healthy relationship with food and where it comes from. And it's incredible. I'm so excited for you that you get to work with younger students now.
Oh, I love it. Realize this. I'm determined to retire undefeated in basketball. So strategic placement in an elementary school.
You're set.
But, I'm the oldest 6th grader you're ever going to meet.
Right.
And, I work in a K-5 school. So I've absolutely ensured myself, top of the chain hierarchy there, if you will.
Yeah.
Plus, I have a driver's license, a master key to the building, and I can do long division in my head. I am pretty damn cool. And while they graduate, I keep getting new crops of younger ones. So, I'm staying the same age. The kids are coming up. It's a beautiful thing.
It's funny. Yeah, but yeah, so we were talking about your transition into really growing food into the school and implementing that.
Right. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. You see, because my high school kids, as much as they loved doing ornamental work, remarkably in the South Bronx and now more than ever in communities across America and around the world, someone in my class knew someone who was hungry or someone who was getting a meal at a soup kitchen. So when we learned that we could grow food, that in and of itself seemed kind of novel. And the one thing that we did know is food costs money. Mm-hmm. And then the remarkable thing is we went outside our comfort zone. We went to Whole Foods. And, when we saw the cornucopia, the beauty, the glory and bounty that is nature and, fresh food and healthy food and intoxicating food, if you will, and food that's not sitting behind a bulletproof window and wrapped in, 15 layers of plastic and hermetically sealed. Right. That was game changing. I like to say, and I refer to it in my book, The Power of a Plant, that, the children got drunk on tomatoes, if you will. They were intoxicated. Whole Foods just made us fall in love with food. And my children looked around and said, wow, look at these people. They're paying good money for this. And that's when we started growing vegetables. And, we never looked back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys just started with did you start with the grow tower whenever you started in your classroom? Or?
No. No. That's been evolutionary as well. So we started growing outdoors. I learned about vertical walls indoors. In fact, people talk about edible schoolyards. I gave birth to the first edible classroom in all of New York City.
It's amazing.
My students and I had a classroom that routinely grew enough food to feed 450 students a healthy, fresh meal in school, which is pretty cool. And I was kind of like the king of DIY technology. And again, the oldest sixth grader in the room, I was fascinated with this stuff. I was like a kid in a candy shop. I couldn't believe it. The students loved it and I loved it. And we were having a grand old time. But the one thing that I realized is I climbed the ladder of professional success in terms of moving on to wanting to become a building administrator. I just didn't want to be that one nutty teacher in a classroom. I wanted to create systems that were scalable, replicable, affordable, lightweight, and portable, and really do things that any teacher could do. So by happen chance, when my students and I won the National Indoor Gardening Championship, we came across this technology called the Tower Garden. And it was an absolute mistake that we found it, but therein lied the solution for what I wanted to do. And in 2014, realized that there were 0 schools in the United States using tower gardens. My little children and I out at Hunts Point made a few videos, and lo and behold, wouldn't you know, in 2017, there were over 5,000 schools in the United States using tower gardens. Amazing. You said we went to the White House in 2014. That is correct. We also were invited twice in 2015, twice in 2016, including installing a tower garden at South by South Lawn for the president and Mrs. Obama.
That's
and if
amazing.
that's not enough, a replica of my classroom was installed in the U.S. Botanic Gardens. So it's perfect that, this collision, if you will, this connection, if you will, this co-learning that happened really generated a whole new pathos, a whole new ethos, and a brand new set of logos to make Epic happen. Si se puede. You can read about it in the book. I got to keep plugging that book, which, by the way, all proceeds support Green Bronx Machine and my students, so it's real near and dear to me. So it's not about paying it back. It's really about paying it forward and growing the next generation. So please, get out there, read the book.
I love it. Yeah, and anything that we talk about, especially with the book, Steven's going to send me all of the links. I'll have them all in the show notes. That way you can go and click and buy his book and support what he's doing and just check out all of his talks. And you're so incredible. I'm so excited for you guys. And I mean, really awesome that, a lot of these kids, they don't have any hope, and you've provided that. And I mean, you've gotten kids to the White House. Like, that's just incredible how far just caring can take somebody.
Well, this May, in 2 weeks, I've got my first cohort of children graduating college. These were kids who no one expected to graduate high school, and they are graduating college. But it's a simple premise. No child rises to low expectations, and my job is to love children until they learn to love themselves. That's really what I do. It's just that simple.
Yep.
I like to say we've gone from hope to the Pope. I was invited to meet Pope Francis. How cool was that? And that's, that is, as I jokingly say, the power of a plant, that a seed well planted and well tended to will give you a crop of epic proportions.
It's amazing. That's amazing. So when did it start to affect your own health? Because I know that through this whole process, you learned what to eat and how to grow your own food. And then how did all of this weight, over 100 pounds, that's amazing.
Well, what happened is as I was doing all this ornamental gardening and all of this Herculean labor, funny thing, you get hungry. And the other issue is that, I'm not getting younger. I am getting older. I tell children I'm constantly getting better looking, but I am getting older. And as I got older, my metabolism slowed down. But all this work, I was eating what was available to me in the community. Fast food, crappy foods, lots of soda, because soda was so much more prevalent in the community than water. They weren't even there were not even working water fountains in some of the buildings that I worked. So, you get these big sodas, and literally as my productivity increased, my hunger went up. And as my hunger went up, my girth went up. And, I ballooned to close to 300 pounds. And how did I get there? Well, 1 pound at a time. And then I started developing a cirrhotic liver. I had heart problems. I was pre-diabetic. And, instead of saying, hey, food is the problem, no, I just said, give me medicine. And I started taking more medication, and I was getting sicker and sicker and more dis-ease and more dis-ease, culminating in a problem where my medication was counterintuitive to my own best interest. I passed out in front of my daughter. I was having serious heart issues. And in a lot of ways, I probably would have been content to eat myself to death because I really had this love affair with ridiculous quantities of food. But I certainly wasn't willing to put my wife and my daughter through that kind of agony. And when I saw what I looked like after I gave my TED Talk, I'm like, wow, I am really effing fat.
What year was that TED Talk? That was the first one, right? What year was that TED Talk?
That was 2012. And believe it or not, at that talk, I had a colostomy bag attached to me. I was so ill. I had gone into the hospital 2 weeks before for a routine procedure to have a hernia fixed. And it turned out that, my heart stopped on the table.
Wow.
I was so far left, I didn't know from right, much less center. And I wasn't even supposed to give that talk. They wanted to ban me from giving the talk when I got there. Diane Hatch, who's wonderful, she was reluctant to let me take the stage. She's like, Steve, you could do this another time. Your health is more important. I had about 101 fever. I could barely walk. But I was absolutely determined to give the talk because my students made it and I wanted to highlight their achievements. And remarkably, when I got out on stage, I kind of found a rhythm and felt really good. So no one really knew until the end when I was gasping for air because I was having a lot of problems. So people thought I was having like that New York moment, like, that was me almost dying because I couldn't breathe. It wasn't me kvetching and kvelling over my wonderful work. It was me almost having yet another heart attack. But again, when I saw how big I was, that was the model. And of course, when my dear friend, the Bronx Borough President, and my buddy, State Senator Gustavo Rivera, started the Bronx Can Change Attitudes Now health campaign and, challenged each other to lose weight, I'm like, you know what? The competitor in me, the fierce athlete in me said, I'm going to kill both of these guys. And I just decided to lose some weight. And, I'm the winner. Well, and we're all winners, but, I really took it to heart. And I started with just small, simple solutions, less sugar, less salt, a smaller plate here, a little less rice, cutting out soda. And the weight started to really fall off. And then I started really growing epic amounts of vegetables and eating them with kids in school. And the one thing I found is the more vegetables I ate, I could eat as much as I want and never be hungry and never gain weight. And it was just a remarkable thing.
That's awesome. And it's cool, too, for your students to get to see, like, you're actually living what you're teaching them, too. I'm sure that was inspiring for them to see.
I don't want to be a hypocrite. You can't be 300 pounds and talk about healthy eating.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So do you want to talk a little bit about, I know you guys are doing A lot of community work right now, like, and even in the past, like I mean, people have actually like hired you and your students to go and like build gardens on their roofs and like build them for the communities. Like it's really been I mean, almost a business, but it's really been an outreach in different parts of the state, right?
Well, we are much less. Thank you. Yes, but we've gotten a little bigger in our remarkable ways. Believe it or not, when I was a top 10 finalist for the Global Teacher Prize, they afforded me a little money. And rather than keeping the money for me, I donated it and built the National Health, Wellness, and Learning Center in one of the oldest school buildings in New York City, in a 100-plus-year-old building, in a 4-story walk-up, in the poorest congressional district in America, in the least healthy county in New York State, in the poorest performing school district in all of New York City. And we were able to transform the school and school performance and school culture. Consequently, that classroom, built in 2014, 2015, has had visitors from over 60 countries and 6 continents.
Oh my
How cool
gosh.
is that?
It's
If there's a
amazing.
teacher out there from Antarctica, I want you to visit so I can make the 7 continents. But it goes to show you what a little ingenuity can do. Remarkably, I've had people from Dubai come visit me. Next week, I'm hosting someone from Japan. This week, I'm hosting someone from Colombia. And it goes to show you what you can do with the power of a plant. We are scaling across Canada with Loyalty One. On Tuesday of next week, I'll be farming in the mountains of Colombia, as in Bogota, Colombia. I have programs in Egypt, St. Louis, Canada. You name it. It's just amazing. It's remarkable.
That's awesome.
It speaks to the power of what is possible. That we are Americans, Mexicans, Dominicans, African Americans. Do you hear that, number 45? We're coming for you.
That's so incredible. I love that. I love that you went from Egypt to St. Louis too.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
That's amazing. I love that so much. So why don't you tell us a little bit, about your book? And I know you said all of the cost for that is going towards your cause, but to kind of walk us through your whole vision for that.
Well, my book, entitled The Power of a Plant, available by Rodale, is really a teacher's odyssey to grow healthy minds and grow healthy schools. To me, it's dedicated for children and communities that need more love and for all the unplanted seeds waiting to bloom. It's kind of inspired by Maya Angelou, if you will, and that, my wish for you is to continue to be who you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. And I absolutely believe that random acts of kindness and random acts of genius can change the world. I mean, look at me. The one thing I'm really accomplished at is failure. There's no better failure than me. I'm a professional at that. I'm living my life in beta, determined to get to better. And I keep falling up the ladder of success. So the book has obviously some of my background. It's part memoir, part blueprint, part inspiration, but 100% dedication, designed to make epic happen. It talks about preparing the soil, and I liken communities to being the soil. It talks about planting the seeds, and I talk about people as being seeds. And it talks about sharing the harvest, which means, how do we grow outcomes? It comes with an appendix. It has, letters from students, letters from teachers, my favorite vegetables to grow with children of all ages. It has a green vocabulary and how to grow a green vocabulary and green mindset, how school leaders can help grow green programs. It comes with acknowledgments. It even comes with what I call the Green Bronx Machine Manifesto. And if that's not enough, it's packed filled with amazing pictures, beautiful stories. It's got a picture of me and Oprah in there. And it's just a really cool, fun book to read. Over 45 luminaries, from Deepak Chopra to Marion Nestle to Will Allen to Nona Evans to Daniel Lubitsky to Tom Colicchio. You name it, blurb the book. Daniel Nierenberg, Jenny Seidel, Reverend Al Sharpton. No justice, no peace. I taught Rev that. He talked about the book. Of course, the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr. is in there. Joe Lampel, the executive producer of Growing a Greener World, is in there. I have the White House chef in here, Bill Yassis. The founder of Maker Faire is in here, Chef Jose Andres, and I got to give him a big shout out because not only did he shout out my book, But really, he's talking about how immigrants are feeding America, and it's absolutely critical to realize that. Michael Blake is in the book. Farmer Dave from Florida, Alan Calment, the chef and co-founder of Le Pain Quotidien, who was kind and gracious enough to donate food to our epic and gala book premiere, which happened earlier this week in New York City to a standing room only crowd. And of course, my book would not be complete without the kind, wonderful words of my dear friend, Mr. Jay Martin, the CEO and founder of Juice Plus, which is the parent company of the Tower Garden. So, so much gratitude, so much. It's just, let me tell you something. This book comes with a double your money back guarantee. I will give you double your money back if you don't like the book. Remarkably, it's been in 3 #1 best-selling slots pre-sales on Amazon. So get out there and buy the book and share.
Definitely. And especially if you're a teacher or if you work in a school or a principal of a school, just get them in your classrooms, right?
If you just want to change your own life. If you just want to listen, this book is for anybody and everybody who wants to feel good, to understand what positive thinking can do, how diet can impact performance. Listen, eating across the rainbow is not a bag of Skittles, damn it. It's not. So, getting children access to healthy, fresh food is critical. Input equals output. You won't put vinegar in your Mercedes, your Porsche, or your Testarossa. And for me, my students are my Ferraris, my Mercedes, my Maseratis. Every day I'm looking at the next Barack Obama and Sandra Sotomayor. So for me, giving them critical food and critical nutrition when they need it most to get their minds and bodies pumped up and working properly is absolutely important.
Absolutely.
So it's all about all good things. And just, again, the beauty of what happens when you put a seed in the ground and bet that you will be there to see that baby blossom. I still marvel that I can put a teeny tiny seed in the ground and we're planting out the largest soil-based farm in the history of the Bronx in the 21st century this weekend. And guess what? In 60 days, we'll be eating food and donating food to cancer survivors. How cool is that? My children and I are so excited.
Because you guys
awesome
donate.
Sauce!
How much do you know? Like how much you're actually donating? Because I'm sure you're doing like restaurants and like community,
Well, the one thing that I'm most focused on is my community, flooding the local community with healthy, fresh food, feeding people who need it, feeding people who want it, and changing the way people eat, the way they learn, and changing outcomes in this and future generations. But to give you some scale, we send home about 100 bags of groceries per week in school with little children who are farming all year long en route to outstanding personal success and academic performance. We flood the cafeteria with healthy, fresh food. And in the summer, and getting ready to this weekend, we have one of the most productive outdoor soil farms per square foot in all of New York City.
Wow.
As I like to say, 50,000 pounds of vegetables later, my favorite crop is organically grown citizens, graduates, members of the middle class, kids who are going to college, and happy, healthy, resilient communities.
Yeah, and you had mentioned I know you have a pretty close relationship to the White House chef, right? Do you guys collaborate?
Present administration excluded.
Gotcha.
I will leave it at that.
Got it. Understood.
But if they invite me, I'll show up. I may have to, bring my pointer and give a couple of lessons. And,
Got it. But as far as like the chef there, you guys have collaborated on some projects, right?
Oh, Chef Yassis has been wonderful. It's funny because the kids call him Chef Bill, which is just hilarious.
That's
I
funny.
was just so honored to meet Bill at a TED conference, and he walked up to me, and I didn't know who the hell he was. This guy in these beautiful titanium glasses and fancy shoes. I talk all about it in my book. And it's just really funny because he was so elegant and so eloquent. And I tend not to meet people like that too often in my line of work. And he walked right up to me and said, hey, you're Steve Ritz. And I'm like, yeah, last I checked. And he goes, we love you at the White House. And like my eye was like, Scooby-Doo, the White House? He goes, oh yeah, we watch your TED Talk all the time. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Who the hell are you?
Right.
He's like, I'm the executive pastry chef for President Obama. I'm like, what? And they're like, what do you mean? You know the Obamas? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're the executive pastry chef? Like, The White House has a pastry chef?
Right. That's crazy.
So, he goes, then the next question was, he goes, are your pictures or images trademarked? And I'm like, no, why the hell would you ask that? And he goes, oh, because I'm using them in my presentation. We love you. I was like, how cool is that? So Bill and I, became friendly. We switched, we exchanged numbers. It's kind of funny because, I have an AOL account and my old flip phone. And, I was scrambling to put that in. And he's looking at me like, man, this guy's a dinosaur. He knows about plans, but we've got to get him an upgrade.
Yeah.
And he and I stayed in touch. And we hatched this plan to bring children to the White House. And remarkably, in 2014, the children who we made a video with of Office Depot farmed their way straight to the White House kitchen. It was amazing. We actually cooked inside the kitchen. Chef gave us a mandate of what he wanted us to grow. And then he started coming back to visit us, using the very food we grew in school. It was absolutely remarkable. But the most important thing is that, aside from bringing kids from the South Bronx to the White House and letting them see people who looked like them working inside the White House, which was just spectacular. And when everyone asked how'd they get the job, they simply said, we applied, which was a brilliant answer. It was so inspirational and aspirational for my children. All of those children who are in that video were just recently inducted into the Junior National Honor Society.
It's amazing.
And that, to me, is one of the things I'm most proud of. It's just changing trajectories to children,
Yeah, giving them hope that they can really achieve anything that they want to if they if they work hard and learn. And
education should be about.
Yes, exactly.
Access, opportunity, inclusivity.
Yep.
It's not enough to say, hey, we're going to invite these kids to the dance. You got to make sure you're playing the music they like and make sure they're dancing with someone at the same time, with someone who doesn't look just like them.
Yep.
That's what this is about.
That's awesome. Well, Stephen, I love all of your work. You're extremely inspiring. How can people follow what you're doing with everything, with your classroom, with your book information? What's the best way for people to follow you on social media?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have two. Well, Green Bronx Machine has a Facebook page. The children are just all over it, which is really cool because it's great to see children and adults around the world connecting on something cool besides what new product Jay-Z or Rihanna or whoever it is, Beyonce is hawking. Who really cares who Justin Bieber is dancing to? So I think it's great that there are 50,000 children online at any given moment talking about healthy living, healthy food, and aspirational. So like the Green Bronx Machine Facebook page, follow them on Twitter. Steve Ritz has a Facebook page. You can follow me or like me, whatever it is. I think we do that Insta thing of what's it called? I don't know. But, we do all of it. So, you could check out the Green Bronx Machine website, the Stephen Ritz website, Instagram, Instagram, that's it. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Green Bronx Machine, Stephen Ritz. Si se puede. Get out there. Make epic happen. Write to us. Follow us. Love us. And please check out our new book, The Power of a Plant. If that's not enough, we have this great special coming out on June 3 on public television called Growing a Greener World with Joe Lampel. It's a 27-minute dedicated episode which follows a day in the life of my students and I. So you can come on down to the South Bronx and live vicariously through us and with us and learn about what it is that we do and how we do it. That's a good start, I think.
That's awesome.
The Power of a Plant. Please, 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 please. Double your money back guarantee.
Amazon, right?
Yep. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I'm
everywhere.
I'm vendor agnostic as long as you buy the book and know that proceeds are going to support the Green Bronx Machine. How cool is that? And if you don't like the book, I'll buy it back from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. You are amazing. I'm really, really happy that you had time to come on here and chat and share your story. I'm excited for people to hear it.
Well, passion and purpose. Let me tell you something, Dr. Casey, as we get set to close.
Yes.
Passion, purpose, and hope are the absolute secret sauce. Yep. Passion, purpose, and hope will get you close. And sometimes one big leap of faith will get you right into the end zone. And that's what this is about. Make epic happen. Si se puede.
I love it. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks, Dr. Casey. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
Y'all come back now. You hear?